Alright guys, big news late on Wednesday. Justin Roiland is innocent. That's right, Roiland announced on Twitter that all charges against him had been dropped. So today we're going to take a look at the allegations, why they were dropped, and what happened to Justin Roiland, and why some people aren't happy. You might remember when the allegations first dropped, I made a video on them. So I figured I should post an update now that my original video is outdated. If you want to watch that, I'll put a card on screen now, but I'll do a little background in this video. So what exactly was Roiland accused of? Domestic battery and false imprisonment. If you don't know what false imprisonment is, it's basically like the inverse of kidnapping, where instead of taking someone against their will, you are not allowing them to leave against their will. So you can probably tell why people were just a little upset when this all came to light. I mean, don't get me wrong, Roiland has always been known to be kind of eccentric, but domestic battery and false imprisonment? It was kind of hard to really match his public personality. In my original video, I said that he was innocent until proven guilty, and that we shouldn't treat him like he's been convicted, if in reality he hadn't, which turned out to be the right take. Hey guys, just interrupting briefly to ask you to subscribe. It really helps me out, thanks. Back to the video. I mean, yes, the charges were serious, but there never really was any evidence that he did anything wrong ever actually put out into the public. In fact, the charges against Roiland had been brewing since August 2020, and he'd had a number of court appearances since then, before anyone even knew. It was kind of sketchy how the charges were found from the beginning, which if I recall correctly, just happened to be because some news reporter just happened to be looking at a docket of upcoming cases and saw Roiland's name and the charges. That's literally all we knew at the time, and people started to treat the guy like he was one of the worst people to ever walk the earth. Even now that he has had the charges dropped, I'm still seeing people, including YouTubers, say that his guilt not being proven in court doesn't matter, and that he needs to prove his innocence to the public, which is just an insane take. There has never actually been any evidence that he did anything wrong made public. So what exactly is he supposed to provide evidence against? In America, we're supposed to have the right to be innocent until proven guilty. And it's kind of sad and disappointing to see so many people shift that to say that you need to prove yourself innocent, or that allegations, even when completely unsubstantiated, are evidence of guilt, as if no one had ever lied to get someone convicted of a crime before. You can try to defend that line of thinking by saying that you don't want to hurt the accuser's feelings in case they aren't lying. But as a country, we've been down that line before. How many men were killed unjustly in the South because of just the accusation of a liar and the color of their skin? It's dangerous. Maybe not as dangerous as that example in this particular case, but you should always look at the ends of your particular slippery slope when you're about to jump down it. And I should clarify that we do know that Roiland is innocent because of the statement made by Kimberly Edds, a spokesperson for the Orange County, California Attorney's Office. She said, "We dismissed the charges today because there was insufficient evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt." Then adding, "Significant additional information came to light." So some new evidence came forward that must have torpedoed the DA's case, and since it's not often they would risk pursuing charges against a prominent person for 3 years, unless they thought they had a pretty good case. It was probably a bombshell. I mean, cases go to trial all the time, even with shaky evidence, so it had to have been something that would have made it really hard for them to convince a jury that Roiland had committed a crime. And to his credit, at the time that the charges had first been announced, Roiland's attorney had put out a statement saying that this would happen, and was very correct in his assertion that the charges would be dropped. So what did Roiland say today? Well, he announced his innocence on Twitter with a tweet captioned, "Justice." He said, "I have always known that these claims were false, and I never had any doubt that this day would come. I'm thankful that this case has been dismissed, but at the same time, I'm still deeply shaken by the horrible lies that were reported about me during this process. Most of all, I'm disappointed that so many people were so quick to judge without knowing the facts, solely based on the word of an embittered ex trying to bypass due process and have me cancelled. That it may have succeeded, even partially, is shameful. However, now that the legal case is ended, I'm determined to move forward and focus on my creative projects and restoring my good name." Overall, a good statement, considering the circumstances. I bet he's really angry about the whole thing. It is a little weird and petty that he mentions it was all the fault of his ex, presumably the one who accused him, despite the fact that there really isn't much that I can point to yet that says the ex was involved in the charges becoming public. Like I said earlier, the charges seem to have been brought to light because the reporter was in the right place at the right time and saw his name on a list, which doesn't involve the ex. The case had been going on for 2 years when it was made public, so it might be weird for his ex to stay silent the entire time and only decide to leak it to the press, if that is what Roiland is alleging after all that time. Then again, I guess it's possible that the ex knew she would lose and decided to go mask off, but we really don't know, and that would go against all the available reporting on how this came to light. So now it would be wrong of me to talk so much about the court case and not mention the leaked messages that were allegedly from Roiland to multiple women. I didn't spend much time discussing them in my original video because, to be honest, there is not a single single shred of evidence that they are real. It's so easy to fake screenshots, and some of the stuff he was saying honestly felt like it was more likely to be stuff made up by someone to hurt his reputation than to be him doing it unironically. I mean, he was allegedly messaging these girls essentially as Morty from Rick and Morty, saying all sorts of ridiculous cringe stuff, to the point that either Roiland based Morty off of himself and the messages are real, or some 13-year-old edgelord faked the DMs after an all-night Rick and Morty binge. So yeah, I don't put much faith in the leaked DMs, but if they ever actually do turn out to be real, he needs psychiatric help. So what's next for Roiland? He's been kicked off Rick and Morty, fired from his games company, his reputation is in the bin. What can he do? When he was originally fired by all these companies, I assumed it was because they must have thought that he was guilty, but maybe they just didn't like him. Roiland is known to be a bit eccentric in a way that occasionally gets on other people's nerves, and some of the staff from Rick and Morty seem to have said that Roiland is barely involved, you know, except for doing all the voices. So maybe they saw the public outrage at his charges as a way to get rid of him easily, and they took it. Or maybe they actually believed he was guilty. Or maybe they just gave in to the cancel culture mob. Who knows? What I do know is that if I was Justin Roiland, I would tell them to stick it where the sun don't shine if they came back and offered to hire him again, which I don't think is going to happen unless Roiland somehow manages to file and win a lawsuit saying they unjustly fired him, which is unlikely since the negative attention he was getting at the time is probably enough for them to argue he was a brand risk. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I do think that it might be good for them to hire him back, at least as the voice actor for Rick and Morty, because I think the show is going to go the way of the dinosaurs once they replace his voices, since the iconic voices are kind of a huge part of the show. Just my 2 cents. It does seem like this is at least a little like what happened between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard last year, where Johnny had been accused of doing horrible things to Amber Heard and was immediately fired from a lot of his movies, only for the courts, and certainly public opinion, to change when he prevailed against Heard's claims. I wonder if Roiland is considering filing a defamation suit against his accuser, because that's really the only way you can punish someone who accuses you of something you didn't do. It's kind of weird in general that in America, you can just make statements about someone completely made up, cause their arrest, make them go through the court system, and when they're cut free because there's not enough evidence that they did anything wrong, you just get to go away scot-free. I think really the most they can get you for is lying to the police or to the court. Just as a general rule, I think that it would be good to make some more laws allowing for some kind of restitution if you're falsely accused of a crime. Might not have been so important in the old days, but now that so many people are willing to condemn you for life based off of nothing, I think it might be time to think about it. What do you think? Anyway, I'm gonna end up rambling all day, so I'm gonna call it there. I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know what you think about this situation in the comments. Have a great day, and God bless you.